sound of nothing. I stoiccat. The last time I spoke to Lena was on a Tuesday in October, under a sky so gray it looked like the world had given up trying. We stood outside her apartment, the air thick with damp leaves and unspoken endings. She didn't cry, neither did I. She just handed me my jacket, the one I'd left on her couch a week before, muttered something about needing space, and shut the door. That was it. No shouting, no please, just the click of a lock and the hum of silence that followed me home. I didn't call her after that. Didn't text. Didn't knock our door at 2 a.m. with bourbon on my breath and apologies spilling out. I wanted to, but I didn't. Instead, I went quiet. Let the space between us stretch like a desert. Vast and uncharted. People think silence is just the absence of sound. They're wrong. It's a battlefield. A churn of emotions and patience where every second feels like a grenade waiting to go off. You're fighting yourself more than anyone else. Wrestling with the urge to break, to reach out, to say something, anything to fill the void. I wasn't okay. Not even close. But I learned early on that showing it doesn't fix anything. My dad used to say, "Don't let him see you bleed, kid. They'll just keep cutting." He was a stoic bastard, rough around the edges from a life of hard labor and harder losses, and I guess some of that rubbed off on me. So I kept my head up, went to work at the bookstore downtown, smiled at customers like my chest wasn't caving in. I'd stack novels about love and betrayal, wondering if Lena ever thought about me when she saw a paperback with my handwriting in the margins. She didn't show her pain either, not in the ways you'd expect. No late-night calls, no tearful voicemails. If you saw her on the street, you'd think she was fine. Hair pulled back, that sharp jawline of hers cutting through the world like she owned it. But I knew her better than that. Lena was a master at hiding the cracks. She'd laugh too loud, move too fast, anything to keep the storm inside from spilling out. Silence wasn't peace for her. It was a cage, and she was pacing inside it, claws out, waiting for something to break. The first week without her, I checked my phone every 10 minutes, hoping for a text, a missed call, anything. Nothing came. I'd scroll through her social media instead, looking for clues. She posted a photo of that Friday, a coffee cup on a windowsill, steam curling up like a ghost. Morning rituals, she captioned it. Simple, mundane, but I knew that cup. It was the chipped blue one I'd used every time I stayed over, the one she'd tease me about, because I'd hold it with both hands like a kid. Was a message, a taunt, or just a coincidence? I stared at it for too long, tried to decode the silence behind it. People don't wear their hurt like a badge. They bury it, dress it up in normalcy. Lena was hurting. I could feel it, but she'd never let it show outright. That's the thing about pain. It's sneaky. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, slipping into the edges of a smile or the tilt of a head. She'd built a wall around hers, brick by brick, and I was on the outside, guessing at the cracks. Her silence wasn't calm. It was a storm brewing, a hurricane held back by sheer will. I wasn't much better. I'd post to a photo of the bookstore shelves, a quote from some poet about loss I didn't even like. Keeping busy, I wrote. Bullshit. I wasn't busy. I was drowning. But I'd learned the game. You don't admit you're falling apart. You pose with a book or a beer. Grin like the world's not tilting under your feet. Social media is a stage. And we were both playing our parts. Her with her coffee cups. Me with my stacks of paperbacks. Pretending we didn't care when caring was all we had left. On month 2, her posts got louder. Not in words. Lena was too clever for that, but in volume. A selfie at a bar. Her eyes glinting under neon lights. Captioned, "Nights like these." A shot of her running shoes on a trail. Chasing the sunrise. She was everywhere. Living harder than she ever had when we were together. I'd scroll through, jaw tight, wondering who she was trying to convince. Me? Herself? The world? Happy Happy people don't need to shout it from the rooftops. They just breathe it quiet and steady. Lena was screaming, and I was the only one who could hear it. I kept my own mask on, posted a photo of a sketch I'd done. Charcoal waves crashing on a shore, dark and jagged. Late night thoughts. I wrote. No one asked what it meant, but I knew she'd see it. We'd spent hours on that beach once, her head on my shoulder, the tide pulling at our toes. She'd know the weight behind those lines, the ache I wouldn't say out loud. Our posts were letters we'd never send, confessions wrapped in pixels and filters. The cracks were showing, though. Hers in the way she'd overdo it. Too many photos, too much forced cheer. Mine in the spaces I left empty. The days I didn't post because staring at a blank screen felt safer than pretending. Silence isn't always quiet. Sometimes it's a roar you choke down, a war you fight with every breath. We were both soldiers in it, armed with pride and stubbornness, refusing to wave the white flag. Around Christmas, I got a text. Not from her, from Jake, a friend we'd shared. Saw Lena at the market, he wrote. She asked about you. Seemed off. I read it 10 times, heart thudding. She'd asked about me. After 3 months of nothing, she'd cracked the seal, even if it was through someone else. I didn't reply to Jake right away. Didn't know how. Instead, I went to her page. She'd posted a photo of a snow-dusted street. No caption, just the image, stark and lonely. I knew that street. It was 2 blocks from my place. Was she there, watching, hoping I'd see? I didn't reach out. Didn't ask Jake for more. I let it sit, heavy and unanswered. Silence is my shield now, but it wasn't easy. I wanted to run to that street, to find her, to demand why she'd left, and why she was still circling my life like a ghost. But I didn't. Reacting would have given her the power, and I wasn't ready to hand it over. Not yet. Her next post came a day later. A cryptic line, some things stay frozen. No context, just those 4 words hanging there like icicles. I knew what she meant. Us. The memories. The way we'd locked ourselves in this standoff, neither willing to thaw first. She was hurting, and she wanted me to know it without saying it. That's the thing about pain. It leaks. You can dam it up, but find a way out. Through a photo, a phrase, a fleeting glance from across a crowded room. She started using our friends more after that. Jake again. Lena said your old jacket's still at her place. Wants to know if you need it. Then Sarah. Ran into Lena at the cafe. She mentioned your sketches. Said they're good. Little breadcrumbs. Tossed out through others because she couldn't bring herself to face me. I didn't bite. Didn't ask them to pass messages back. I kept quiet. Let her stew in the absence she'd created. If she wanted me, she'd have to say it herself. Her post shifted to more metaphors, less glitter. A photo of a cracked mirror, captioned reflections. A shot of the ocean at dusk. Waves don't apologize. She was bleeding through the screen now, her pain seeping into every frame. I'd stare at them late at night, coffee cold in my hands, try to read the woman I'd once known better than myself. She missed me. I could feel it, sharp as a blade, but she'd never admit it, and I wouldn't ask. I posted less by then. The effort of pretending felt heavier than the truth. When I did, it was simple. A shadow on a wall, still here. She knew it was for her. We were dancing around each other. 2 shadows in a fog, close enough to feel the heat, but too far to touch. Silence wasn't peace. It was a war of attrition, and we were both losing, even if we wouldn't say it. 6 months in, I saw her. Not online, in person. I was at the pier, sketching the horizon like I used to when things were good. The wind was sharp, tugging at my pages, and I didn't hear her until she was 10 feet away. She stopped, hands in her pockets, watching me. I looked up, and there she was. Same dark eyes, same guarded stance. Neither of us spoke. The waves crashed, loud and indifferent. filling the space where words should have been. She broke first. "You still come here," she said, voice low. "Not a question, just a fact." "Yeah," I said, nothing more. I kept sketching, let her feel the weight of my calm. She shifted, uneasy, like she'd expected me to leap up to demand answers. I didn't. Silence had hardened me, taught me how to stand still when everything screamed to move. "You're different," she said finally, almost to herself. "So are you." I replied, eyes on my paper. She didn't argue. She just stood there, the wind pulling in her hair, and I knew she was waiting for me to crack, to ask why she'd left, why she'd circled back. I didn't give her that. I'd learned to live with the questions, to let them sit unanswered. She hadn't. Her next post came that night. A blurry photo of the pier, captioned echoes. No explanation, just that word, heavy with everything she wouldn't say. I didn't like it, didn't comment. I'd seen her, felt her, and that was enough. She was still fighting her war, and I was still fighting mine. The difference was, I wasn't bleeding for her anymore. People think anger means you're over it. They're wrong. Lena's post got sharper after that. Snippets of lyrics about betrayal, photos of her with new people, all teeth and defiance. She was mad, and it showed. But anger isn't closure. It's a mask, a flimsy one, and I could see the hurt underneath. She had moved on. She was still tethered, lashing out because the silence was too loud. I stayed steady, posted a sketch of a bird mid-flight, free. She'd know it wasn't about her. It was about me, about the weight I'd shed, the piece I'd clawed out of the wreckage. Happiness doesn't need a megaphone. It's quiet, solid, a thing you carry without flashing around. Lena was still shouting, still proving something. I didn't need to. A year after she'd left, Jake told me she'd asked about me again. She looked rough, he said. Kept bringing you up. I nodded, unsurprised. Her posts had slowed. Fewer parties, more shadows. A photo of a half-empty glass. Nights get long. She was unraveling, and I wasn't there to catch her. Not this time. The last time I saw her was outside the bookstore. 8 months later. I was locking up, the street quiet under a drizzle. She walked by slow, then stopped. Our eyes met, and for a second, I saw it. The raw, unguarded Lena I'd loved. No masks, no filters. Just her, tired and fragile. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I echoed. That was it. She didn't ask to talk, didn't apologize. I didn't invite her in. We stood there, rain speckling our shoulders, until she nodded and kept walking. Her next post was a blank square, black and empty, caption enough. I didn't know if it was for me or herself. Didn't matter. Silence isn't just silence. It's a mirror, a blade, a lifeline. Lena and I fought our battles in it. Hers loud and jagged, mine steady and deep. She'd shown her pain in flashes, coffee cups, cryptic lines, accidental meetings. I'd held mine close, let carve me into something stronger. We were both still here, shaped by the quiet, but I'd found my peace. She was still looking, and this story, penned by stoiccat, is a slow, simmering dive into the emotional wreckage of a breakup, where silence becomes both a weapon and a wound. It's raw, relatable, and layered with the tension of unspoken truths, pulling the audience into the messy, beautiful complexity of human connection and disconnection.